with DutyRon. Guys, I am a retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years of law enforcement. If you like all things true crime related from that police perspective, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. Today I want to talk about the concerns in the Lily um, Peters case. I don't know why I keep saying Peterson. I've got a lot of things on my mind, but the Lily Peters case, some concerns. But before we get into it, I want to say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all of the folks who positively engaged in this community. You guys are what makes this a great place. I am out shopping with Mrs. DutyRon. I'm got the security detail. I'm watching the front of the store. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody joining. I see Dr. Ed Moskowitz and Julia's here. Gerda from South Africa, great to see you. So, all the folks coming on in, my subscribers, guys who ring that thumbs up and the notification bell, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Hi, Melissa. Hello, Nikki. Great to see everyone. Jay Butter, good to see you. Beautiful Chaos, thank you for joining. Tara Ellis. The list can go on and on. I could do this all morning. Jeffrey, good to see you. Hi, Ronnie. North Florida, Gary, Aunt Reese, Barbara, Jody Van Drill. Thank you, Dan One. Good afternoon. Hi, Dawn Marie. All right, listen. So I'm gonna get right into it, and these are my concerns. Okay, we have a confession here, right? We have a 14-year-old confessing to heinous crimes against little angel Lily, right? I'm not comfortable with just having that confession. And I know that most of us would common sense prevails and we'd say, okay, there's a confession. It's pretty much a slam dunk. This kid has already admitted to intentionally all of his intent he let be known in this confession. So we have nothing to worry about. I don't feel that that's the case. What I feel is that a defense attorney is going to get a hold of it and he or she is going to pick it apart and they're going to go at the prosecution and say that, hey, my client was under duress and was under stress and gave this statement not willingly. He gave it because he was scared. And that's what I worry about. I worry tremendously about that part. But I want to take you guys back to the year 1981. This old man DutyRon was 16 years old, going on 17, and I want to tell you a story of a case that really is etched in my mind, and that really came up. It did not have a sexual component to it, but I want to tell you about a friend of mine. I was 16. This friend was 13, 3 years younger than me, who was murdered in 1981 by his friend in my hometown where I grew up. This young boy, 13 years old in 1981, lived 4 houses away from me where I grew up and where I lived. Um, he was stabbed to death by his friend. They had an argument, and he was stabbed on a sidewalk in a quiet town in New Hyde Park, where I grew up, 1 block away from his home, on the same block as the perpetrator. The perpetrator was 13, the victim was 13. In this case, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and why it stands out in my mind. So I'm going to read you from an article that was archived from the New York Times. This brings back really bad memories for me because I was just 16 years old and I never experienced a murder or death. And my aunt, God bless her soul, who is a Catholic nun, took me to the funeral. I was never to awake ever in my life at age 16. I had never seen a dead body or seen somebody in a casket. And my aunt, who is in her late 80s, took me. She's a Catholic nun. She took me to the wake and to the funeral. I went to the cemetery, straight through everything, and it was devastating to me because this was a young kid, 3 years younger than me, who used to watch me blow dry my hair and get ready to go out with my friends on a Friday night, and his mother, who he was adopted, his mother was from Germany, and her mother and father who adopted him was from Germany, and they were my neighbors. They lived 4 doors away from me. So this rocked my world. So I'm going to read you the story. This is the story of my friend Erwin Michaelovich. His name is Erwin Michaelovich. He was 13 years old. A 13-year-old boy was fatally stabbed last night during an argument with a classmate and his best friend, who was also 13. The perpetrator was later charged with murder. The victim, identified as Erwin Michaelovich Jr., was stabbed at least 3 times and laid bleeding on a sidewalk for nearly an hour before police and medical help were responded. He died at 1:09 a.m. at Long Island Jewish Medical Center, less than 2 miles away from his home. The Nassau County Police identified the alleged killer as Michael Bakari, an A student, a straight A student at New High Park Memorial Junior High School. He was in seventh grade. He was a seventh grade classman of the dead youth. He was initially questioned at his home, and later At the police station, he was interviewed by another, um, uh, and they interviewed 2 other boys earlier in the evening. The police at the police station determined that Michael was the suspect and charged him with murder, and placed him under arrest for the murder of Erwin Michaelovich. The police say they were treating Michael Bakari as an adult at age 13 rather than a juvenile offender under a provision of a 1979 law that allows 13-year-olds accused of murder to stand trial rather than to appear in family court, juvenile court. The police said the stabbing occurred between 9:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m., but the neighbors on North 4th Street, a quiet residential street, this is my town, this is my neighborhood where I grew up, were unaware that the victim lied mortally wounded and bleeding on the sidewalk because of the darkness. Police say the first call came from help from a Francis Little, who was an employee at a Jamaica water supply company. He found the boy sprawled out on the sidewalk, bleeding profusely at the water pumping station, which was not lit well. At 10:30 p.m., the boy was discovered on the sidewalk, bleeding profusely. Detectives said they had not determined any motive for the slaying. Erwin was the only child of Marie and Erwin Michaelovich Sr., who lived 1 block away on North Fifth Street, where I live. The parents of both boys declined to discuss the case, but a girl at the Bakari home said that her brother came home and looked very shocked, and he went straight to sleep. I didn't hear anything or see anything. Nobody heard anything. He just came home and went to sleep. No murder weapon was found at the scene, Lieutenant James Short said. The police said they believed the knife was used to inflict 3 4-inch deep cuts into the youth's body. So he stabbed him 3 times. I believe once in the back, once in the side, and once in the stomach. Detective Thomas Allen said that Michael Bakari, that's the perp, his father, Daniel, a carpenter, had turned over all of the knives in the home, but the murder weapon was not amongst them. In hopes of finding the knife, the detectives lifted manhole covers, searched sewers and storm drains and catch basins, but were unable to find the murder weapon. Michael was arraigned. This is the perpetrator. Remember, he's 13 years old. Michael was arraigned the next morning on second-degree murder charges in first district court in Mineola before Judge Burton Joseph. The judge ordered him held without bail. This is in 1981. He was ordered held without bail over the weekend in the Nassau County Children's Shelter in Westbury, Long Island. So he went to a youth detention center, right? The judge also ordered a psychiatric examination and considered another bail application at the hearing on Monday. The court cannot conceive what would motivate a 13-year-old to do what he's accused of doing, says Judge Joseph. During a 10-minute proceeding, the suspect is charged as an adult. Then, after denying a request to release the teenager immediately to his parents' custody, Judge Joseph turned to them and said, this is to the family, I feel for you. He's talking to the perpetrator's family. But we have a responsibility to society as well as to the defendant's rights. The police released Michael's name because they said they were handling the case as an adult proceeding. Normally, the names of defendants under the age of 16 in New York are not disclosed. The disclosure came about under the state's juvenile offender law of 1979. Michael's lawyer, Richard Schlechter, said he planned to file a motion next week to have the case transferred to family court. But the assistant district attorney handling the case, George Peck, said he would oppose them transferring it to juvenile family court. The reason I'm reading this all to you is because it ties into what my concerns are for Lily. The police said they had initially considered Michael, that's the perpetrator, only as a witness in the case, but they decided he was a suspect after interviewing other classmates who refused to disclose their identity. They witnessed the two of them arguing, and they didn't know exactly what happened, but they know that there was an argument that ensued between the two boys, which led to the stabbing. So he was charged with second-degree murder, and this case was transferred. This is the unfortunate part, okay? This case, I'm pulling up a second article here. 1 year later, so that was April of 1981. I was 16 years old, gonna be 17 just days later. My birthday is in April 19th. I think this crime happened April 17th or April 18th. So, just 1 year later, I'm going to read you an article, and this is all available online. In Mineola, New York, Nassau County, a jury decided Tuesday that now this perpetrator is now 14 years old. He's 1 year older. This is 1 year later. A Nassau County jury decided Tuesday the 14-year-old boy who was charged with second-degree murder did not intend to kill his best friend and convicted him on a lesser charge of manslaughter. In agreeing to the lesser charge, a 12-member Nassau County court jury decided Michael Bakari did not intend to kill his best friend, Erwin Michaelovich, by stabbing him on a New Hyde Park street. Authorities say Bakari was the youngest person in the county's history to be prosecuted as an adult for second-degree murder. If he was convicted of murder, the defendant, who was now 14 at the time of the killing, could have been sentenced as an adult to an undetermined term of 5 years to life. But under state law, he must be sentenced as a juvenile on first-degree manslaughter. The conviction was referred to the county juvenile family court, and the prosecutor, Nassau County District Attorney George Peck, said he'll probably get only a maximum of 3 years in prison in a state youth detention facility. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. The jury deliberated for 7 hours and convicted the defendant of manslaughter. Neither the tall, thin, dark-haired youth nor his parents, Daniel and Dolores Bakari, showed any emotion. As the verdict was announced, Michaelovich's mother, Marie, Erwin's mother, used to make me liverwurst sandwiches. I'll never forget this. When I was a kid, when I'd go over to their house and hang out with him, and I was 3 years older. So it was like I was like an older friend. I kind of mentored and became friends with this kid. When I would go to his mom's house, I would call her Mrs. Michaelovich. She used to make us liverwurst sandwiches, and I never had a liverwurst sandwich. They were of German descent, and that was it was on white bread, liverwurst, and mayonnaise. I didn't like it to begin with, and then I started liking it. But at the sentence, Erwin Michaelovich's mother, Marie, burst into tears, and his father, Erwin Sr., who I loved those two, they're no longer alive, frowned and appeared noticeably upset by the jury's decision. Senior Michaelovich said later that he did not quarrel with the manslaughter verdict, but was disappointed that Michael, who took his son's life, was not sentenced as an adult. I don't think the jury, this is his father, this is the victim's father. I don't think the jury knew when it made its decision that he would only be sentenced as a juvenile. And 3 years, is that enough for taking my son's life? Said Senior Michaelovich. His parents are no longer alive. They're deceased now. The perpetrator was accused of stabbing his friend 3 times and leaving him bleeding on a sidewalk following an argument the night of April 16th, 1981. There was testimony that both the boys were drinking scotch prior to their argument. The defense presented no witnesses, but Michael's attorney, the perpetrator's attorney, told the jury in his opening statement that the youth stabbed Erwin, the victim, while under the influence of alcohol, but never intended on killing him. He just stabbed him to hurt him, not to kill him. The attorneys said that the Bakari intended to physically harm Erwin, but not to kill him. The jury bought that defense and sentenced him to 3 years in prison. He took another kid, a kid taking another kid's life, and was sentenced to 3 years because the defense said he was intoxicated and only intended to hurt him, not kill him. So the reason I read this whole long, and I apologize for the long, I'm gonna link the articles down below for you guys to read about this. But this happened. This affected me as a child. I was 16 years old when this happened, and I had never been to a funeral. It really, really messed me up. And it was one of the motivating factors for me to seek a career in law enforcement, is because I didn't want this to happen to other people, and I wanted to be. I thought that they could have investigated that more and found the murder weapon somehow and charged him as an adult. I was very angry, and I remember Erwin's father, Erwin Sr., coming to my house after this whole thing, after the funeral was over, after everything was said and done, and his son is buried in a cemetery where my grandmother and my mother's buried. I went to that cemetery many times, but after the cemetery was done and over with and the funeral, the father of the victim came to my house and said to me, "Don't be angry. Don't go and try to have a fight," or because he was worried that I was going to go after. The perpetrator lived 1 block away from us. We lived on Fifth. He was on Fourth Street, right behind us. And Erwin, the victim, was murdered right around the house, right around the block from my house. Um, so I knew where this perpetrator lived, and I knew he was going to get out in 3 years. I think he did less than 3 years, and that's what makes this such a shame. And the reason I circle this back is, although these two crimes, Lily's and Erwin's crimes, are not exactly the same because there's not a sexual component to what happened to Erwin, but he was stabbed 3 times, once in the side, once in the back, and once in the chest, and they were 4 inches deep. This is 4 inches. So he stabbed him 4 inches into his body. That was the whole length of the knife that he used. So he stabbed until the knife couldn't go in anymore 3 times. Plunge, plunge, plunge. And then left him on the sidewalk. I had my permit. You were able to drive at 16, and I had a job. So I had a permit and I was able to drive. I wasn't supposed to drive at night, but I did drive around the block of my house that night. It was a Friday night, I believe. I did drive around the block, and one of the things that really messed me up is that I believe that I drove past Erwin as he was laying on the sidewalk and didn't see him. I wish that I would have seen him and would have been able to save him maybe and call 911 and get an ambulance there. But I fought with that for many years in my early 20s and late teens, that I felt like I could have saved this kid or helped him somehow. But he was left laying on that sidewalk for over an hour, bleeding from those 3 stab wounds. And what got me so upset is that this kid was someone he hung out with. We knew this family. I mean, I knew his sister. His The perpetrator's sister is in the same grade as me. So this case and everything that happened with Erwin really messed with my head. It made me think like, I could have done something, or how did I not see this or help? And I did drive by, and that's what freaked me out, is that um, I drove by the actual location of um, where he was. So, you know, at 16, going on 17, it's not something that it's easy to grasp. But again, Ed, you're right. He went home. The perpetrator went home, and the friends who witnessed the argument. And they also, in the article, I didn't read that part, but the friends said they saw Erwin fall to the floor, and they all ran away. When he did the stabbing and the fighting started happening, there was other kids that witnessed it, and they ran and they stepped over Erwin as he was on the floor and ran down the block. This kid went home, didn't say anything to his parents, and went to sleep. And then the police came, the detectives came knocking at the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. And the other kids, I think there was 3 other kids, they all went home and didn't say anything either. So let me know down below in the comment section what you think about this case, and I'll link the articles. It's the New York Times, and it's on. I'll link it. It's 2 articles for you guys to read, but it's all microfished and put down into reading context. Kelly, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that. And if I missed any of the super stickers or super chats, I apologize, but I thank you so much. But again, I look at my friend, this young little boy who was murdered in 1981, and I think about Lily's case, and I worry that they're going to get soft and turn it over to juvenile court. And if they do that, which I hope and pray they don't, we won't see the same kind of sentencing that he should be sentenced as an adult. And and it just shakes me up at the core, because I think about my friend. I think about little Erwin Michaelovich and how justice wasn't served for him. And the perpetrator has gone on to live his life. Um, for Nikki Bella to be member, make a difference Monday. Oh, Ed Moskowitz is sending in a $20 super chat to making Nikki Bella is coming. DutyRon, always platinum professional. Thank you for Nikki Bella to be a member. Make a difference. Oh, that's really kind of you guys. Thank you for that. We'll work it out. Um, I'm sorry, guys. I get emotional on this stuff because I look at this situation, and the crime against Lily and the crime against Erwin, albeit they're 2 different kinds of crimes. One has a really more horrific sexual component to it, but they are both young children who their lives were taken from them so early. You know, um, anybody and everybody deserves to be able to live and not be murdered and not have their life cut short. We always have the dangers of cancer, health issues, accidents, things of that nature. But when someone snuffs out someone's life early like that, it's just horrific. And I implore you guys to go and look at this case. Thank you, Pat's Cats. Thank you. I implore you guys to go and look at this case. And I'm sorry, I get choked up when I start talking about it, and I'm thinking about this kid, and I can see his face right in front of me. This little kid, Erwin, loved me. He looked up to me like I was like his big brother, and he was an only child. He was adopted, but he was their only child. So the parents were devastated, and I didn't as a kid, I didn't know how to give support, but I wanted to give support. I went to that funeral, and I went to the wake, and I went to the cemetery. My aunt held my hand and let me cry on her, and she explained the whole process to me. Thank God, she a Catholic nun, Sister Camille. She came with me to every step of that wake. I don't think I wouldn't have been able to do it myself. She drove me there. She sat with me and she comforted me, but it was shocking to see my friend in a casket, dead. This poor little kid. So I worry about Lily, and I worry about the case and how the criminal justice system. This is going back to 1981. In 1981, people were getting away with murder. This guy murdered Erwin and did 3 years, if he did 3 years. You know, um, 3 years. Think about it. It's crazy. You know, it's just absolutely insanity. You know, and I say I don't feel that that's going to be the situation for Lily, but it really it troubles me, guys. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Mrs. DutyRon is back in the car. She's done with her shopping. I know. Thank you, Mystery Mavis, for the super chat. Jess sends a super chat. She says, "Hugs to you, DutyRon. We love you. Your heart of gold. Thank you for sharing your story." This story was very concerning to me, and I needed to make this comparison because, albeit it happened in 1981 and the sentencing happened in 1982, it just freaks me out when I think about cases like Lily and I look at these cases from so many years ago, 40 years or so, give or take, in the 40s of years ago, 1981 to now. What is that, babe? Over 40 years. So, when you look at what happened 40 years in the past, we're not so much better off now, the way the criminal justice system is acting, and with bail reform and criminal justice reform. I worry that this perpetrator gets not off with a slap on the wrist, but not the right. For me, I mean, by a show of hands, who is on board with me? I think that this kid, her cousin, who stands charged, innocent until proven guilty, but stands charged with Lily's murder, I think he should never see the light of day. I don't care that he's 13, 14 years old. He should never be able to walk free. But the person who killed Erwin walked free after 3 years. It just freaks me out. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you to everyone who's given super chats. All of the super chats up there are greatly appreciated. Make sure you become a channel member if you can. Support us on Patreon. Also subscribe if you can't support, if you can't go into your pocketbooks and money is tight. Becoming a subscriber is free. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. Who in the chat wants to see quickly Mrs. DutyRon? Who wants to say hello to Mrs. DutyRon? And I'll do it by whether you guys say yes or no. Put a yes in the chat if you want to see Mrs. DutyRon. Put a no in the chat if you want to give her mercy and let her. She doesn't want to be on. She just said say no. So how many yeses and how many nos? Who's with her? Who's supporting her? And who wants to see her just because they want to see her? Let's see. I haven't seen one no yet. I see yeses with laughing faces. One person just said, give her mercy.
Thank you.
She says, thank you. Dawn Marie says, leave her alone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cecilia in New York says, never wanted the death penalty until I had kids. That changed everything. I agree. I agree. All right. The yeses outweigh the no's. Are you ready, babe?
Yeah.
You are ready. The no means yes. So here we go. You guys ready? This is DutyRon.
No.
Wait, there's some no's, but everyone's saying hello.
Hi. Okay, that's enough. Bye.
Okay, so she said that's enough. Goodbye. Why are you hiding your face?
Because
Just say goodbye.
I said goodbye.
I didn't see.
I said goodbye.
Give me a kiss.
No.
Right here.
No. Stop it.
Okay. All right. All right, guys. We're going to, Ed Wallace said no means no.
That's right.
All right, guys. It's all in good fun. Love and respect from DutyRon, Mr. and Mrs. DutyRon. I hope you guys have a great Sunday. Again, let me know what you think about this video and what I talked about down below in the comment section. When I get home, give me about a few hours because we're going to go out to the beach now. We're going to go down to the beach over in Long Beach. So we're going to walk on the boardwalk. And if you guys, anybody's out there and on the boardwalk, come and say hello to us. I'll have that ridiculous hat on right there, that green ridiculous hat. Come over and see me. We will see you on the next live stream. Love and respect from my house to yours. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat. Somebody just said something that made me laugh. And it said, stop pushing her, please. When someone said something about, where is it? Oh my God, domestic violence. This is not domestic violence. This is far from domestic violence. This is us. We're married 31 years and together over 40. So we're good. We're good. You're done. You're done. All right, guys. Peace and love. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining.